I guess we do, but
Yes, and if we could just go around the room and say your name and agency.
all right, I'll go first. Mike Williams, Hillsborough County Development Services.
Jake Collins, Planning Commission staff.
Ben Cat Vertically, Hillsborough County Public Works.
Chris Fellerhoff, Hillsborough County Community Infrastructure Planning.
Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff.
Hi, Sierra Laporte, Hillsborough County Aviation Authority.
Adam Purcell, City of Tampa Mobility Department.
Jesus Teresa Garcia, Hart.
Patrick Newsy, Hillsborough County Children's Services.
Elizabeth Watkins, CPO staff. And online chair, no one from the committees online.
Okay,
And we do have a quorum.
perfect. Okay, so the first item, since we have a forum, is public comment. Is there anyone in person that wants to speak? Seeing none, anyone online wish to speak? For public comment? Take that as a no. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the December 1st, 2025 meeting. Any comments or discussions about the agenda? That meeting? Sure you're all ready. Okay, can we have a motion to accept?
Jake Collins, motion to approve.
A second.
Okay. Motion by Jay, second by Venkat. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. The next item is election of officers. Oh, look who's here. Yes, Elizabeth, you're gonna be taking us through that.
And Bill, for purposes of the minutes, Jeff just walked in. Happy New Year, everyone. This presentation is what we do every January when we have our first meeting of the TAC, where you all will make a decision to elect officers, review the attendance, and then if the TAC would like to make a recommendation to the TPO board on declaring any vacancies, you could do so at this time. Just as a reminder, the TPO bylaws state that the TPO may review or consider rescinding any appointment of any member who failed to attend 3 consecutive meetings. At that point, the TPO staff would warn them in writing within 30 days of the removal to declare that seat vacant or to remove the position. I know this is probably going to be a little bit difficult to see, but it's also in the packet or in the SharePoint. Overall, TAC is doing a great job of coming and being in person because that's really important for our quorum requirements. There were 2 positions, the port as well as the Tampa Historic Streetcar, that have had more than 3 consecutive absences. I reached out to Michael English to see if he would like to declare a vacancy, but have not heard back. So if the TAC wanted to take an action to recommend that the board declare any seat vacant, you could do so, or you could direct me to do additional outreach to work with members on their attendance. While we're talking about attendance, I just wanted to put in another plug on how much it helps staff. Whenever you receive these emails, if you would push the RSVP button, again, it just really helps us in terms of committee management. And the second action that is being asked of you today is to elect your audit officer. You had excellent leadership with your chair as staff, your vice chair, an officer at large, and for Jay. All of these positions are not term limited, but again, every January, there is this opportunity to establish officers. So Chair, what we need from the TAC today is 1, to review the attendance and if there's any motions that pass to consider any of these seats vacant. And then lastly, nominating officers. So whichever you'd like to do.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Elizabeth. I guess let's start with the, reviewing the attendance. Yeah, so I agree with you. I noticed two that kind of jumped out at me was the streetcar and the Port Authority, the Tampa Port, or Port Tampa Bay now. Have you had any feedback, maybe from Laura about, is she anticipating to be a more regular member going forward for the port?
I have not because she was just here at our December meeting, but I will go back and reach out to her and also see if maybe she wants to designate an alternate,
Yes.
because right now she doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, of the two, my personal opinion is the Port Tampa Bay, I think, is a more integral one for all of the a lot of the transportation issues we talk about are related to activities going on in the port. So I think they would have, you know. Okay. So I don't know how, if anybody will just have any discussion if there is an opinion, but I mean, I feel the port brings a lot of value to the perspective in the room. So I would recommend that we keep trying to get attendance from them, and I believe designating an alternate would be appropriate also. Is there any discussion on that matter?
I agree.
Okay.
Was there a second page on this? Second page.
There was in your attachment, but for this purposes, it was for all members.
I think the second page like kind of said what the little symbols meant.
I thought one of them that was on there was the Working Association or something. You know, probably not getting that just right, but
You are absolutely right. There is a spot, but it's been declared vacant, so it doesn't affect our quorum for the trucking industry. You know, maybe it was on that second page and I just cut it off. Years ago, they told us they couldn't participate. So in the future, whenever the TPO opens their bylaws, I would make the staff recommendation to just strike them.
Yes.
So I'll carry that.
Okay, yes, Jay.
I was just wondering, is it a requirement that you must have an alternate?
Yeah.
So our bylaws don't have that as a requirement. Should that be something that perhaps we should consider? For the streetcar, which I have no idea how many members the streetcar board is. Or if Mr. English has ever thought of, I should have an alternate. Mr. English, I'm speaking for him. He's not online, but if that's a thing.
Yeah, I can certainly make a note of that, for the next time the TPO broad bylaws get opened. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Jay, you would make a recommendation that that be a requirement committees for any of the members to also designate an alternate.
I think it would be helpful so that these situations perhaps wouldn't be so apparent. If that's an issue of why they're not here is because whomever they've designated for that role has something else going on. And there is nobody else who can sit in that seat at a moment's notice because everybody is busy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I totally agree. I don't know that's something we can, we could make from our committee level to make that a requirement or not. But I think we can make a recommendation to the board that they consider all the committees have an alternate. I don't know about citizen action, but all the committees have an alternate, at least when they're representing a government agency or similar. So is that something we can make with a motion, or is that just something that'll be recorded in the minutes?
Either way, however you'd like to handle that, Chair. I can definitely keep a note of it, or you could do a motion and next time the bylaws get brought up, this would give us something to point back to in a more concrete manner.
Jay, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I can make a motion then that TPO, MPO subcommittees should have an alternate member for all government and non-governmental organizations that have representation on said committee.
Okay, I agree. Can I get a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, then Todd, the second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry.
Are we able to effectuate that?
I think it was
The
a
motion is-
request for
So we're
them to
gonna
do it.
Okay, got it.
No, I don't think it is like a demand that they do it.
Okay.
I think that's how I.
Right, yeah.
I think
For
that's how.
consideration,
Okay.
motion for consideration.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, there's obvious things like with the Citizen Action Committee, I don't know if there's an appropriate to have a thing, so there would obviously be some nuances that would be worked out, but. Anyway, okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now the other one would be the streetcar, I guess, discussion on whether we want to continue to pursue. I mean, I guess it has merit. I don't, the board I felt was more significant. I don't know the situation, like you said, with how many members even make up the board for the streetcar. We certainly have had projects come up that talk about its expansion and so forth, so there is relevance to them having input. But at the same token, if they can't have a representative, and it was the majority of the year, I think, not available, so,
I don't think he's ever been here in person.
okay, let's see.
He's been online.
And that's another one without an alternate, and again, it may not, they don't have the staff for one, I don't know, so, I mean, I would like if you could ask for them to make a stand on yes or no, are they gonna be, or can they afford to be regular members, and I mean, I'd like to have them, but if they're not gonna be, a reliable participant, I would rather not have somebody that's not able to be here and represented. But again, I would prefer that they were, and offer input and so forth. So maybe that's something their board can bring up and they can decide if they can, have somebody else. Right?
Yeah, the THS board is somewhat small. I
Right.
think it's like 6 people or so. They don't have staff. Like the person appointed to this committee would be a board member, which is usually somebody who's way too busy to be here. A lot of their like staff time is handled through Heart.
Okay. Understood, and I appreciate that, although I would counter with it's once a month for an hour, hour and a half. There's not a lot of prep needed.
That's what I keep saying.
So, I mean, I think if we maybe give them a push from the TPO side to say, they don't have to be a board member that maybe has a little bit more time commitment or anything. It's an hour and a half, and 11 months out of the year, so.
My only thing with it would be behavioral creep of if all of a sudden more organizations decided that they wanted to be online, not in person. And then all of a sudden we have issues with quorum every month, even though we may have a bunch of people showing up, but we have quorum issues. So if you want to become a non-voting member or other things such as that, there are, I'm sure, other options that different organizations and committees have looked at over the past. But that's what I would be worried about is the in-house quorum disintegrating because of more people deciding to be online.
Or should we have an attendance in person requirement? Maybe not every meeting, but I don't know, half the meeting.
Well,
Maybe that'd be wrong.
I don't, speaking of.
Go for it, go ahead.
I am sure that Ms. Watkins and other folks at TPO staff have already had some of these conversations with some of the other committees. So I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at is what's happening in the other committees to where some of these things, or are we like, Jay, this is your way and left field. That's not an issue that we have. Don't even need to worry about it.
No, I think the sentiment is accurate. All the committees are handled a little bit differently. So TAC for your quorum, that's to be a simple majority, which now is 9. Because now we are fully stepped up. This is Ron Patel from Temple Terrace and Adam Purcell's first meeting here. So that bar for quorum got even higher. Jay, your suggestion about like ex officio non-voting members, that is a strategy that's written in the TPO bylaws. I'd have to go back and look to see if we could do that for TAC, but it is used here. So all that to say, all the committees are a little bit different. We can go back to the bylaws and really study them to find those areas of flexibility where we can, but really it's that in-person regular attendance, what we need to be that 9-person quorum.
Yeah, and just one more thing I'll just say, it could be that you could go ahead and say, If your organization or non-governmental misses 6 out of 12 meetings online or in person, you go ex officio. And you have to reapply to get back in, which would help with some of these issues of, are they worthy or not worthy? Which is kind of what we're doing right now between different organizations, which honestly shouldn't be a thumbs up or a thumbs down. There should just be a rule of what you do and don't do.
What's the rule? I mean, or is it a hard rule or a soft rule about if you miss more than 3 in a row, you can be considered for, I don't know, expulsion or whatever. Oh, there it is right then.
So yeah, so it's 3 consecutive meetings, the TPO will warn member in writing. And then how it's worked in the past is if the committee makes a recommendation to the TPO board to vacate the seat, then we would make sure that all of these are met within 30 days. So this is what the bylaws say. I think just overall, given just the nature of the technical advisory committee, these are staff. I think we try to be as flexible as we can, understand the workloads change. So the rules aren't hard and fast, it's what the bylaws say.
Yeah, it's slippery slope a little bit, because I believe that in-person members is important. I mean, it's too easy to get complacent with doing the online, but it is very convenient, and I've done it myself at times. It's, there's times when I have W's going up, so, but I am kind of in agreement that there should be a minimum expectation of the committee members. At least, it doesn't have to be this, it could be that or the alternate, but somebody is here in person. Like, I think half the year makes sense, but something, so maybe it's something just to record in the minutes, or I don't know if we should go so far just to make a motion, but, along the lines of that requirement where at least at the end of the years, it can be evaluated for whether is this member, pulling his weight, so to speak, or, representing themselves appropriately for membership in the committee. I just don't know how strong we want to request it. Want to make a motion for it, or we just want to have it as a comment in the minutes for consideration? I mean, how strongly do you feel about it?
I'm fine with it just being a comment, something that can be explored by the other boards and committees to see if it has legs.
Okay.
And Chair, if you'd like, I'm happy as your staff liaison to maybe have this, do a short presentation like quarterly. So it's not just once a year, but periodically we're kind of looking at this so that people are aware of the rules.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good to me. I think we can move forward like that with just, a request for, evaluation on that aspect of it. Okay, any other comments on attendance? The next up would be election of officers. So, my understanding, anybody can nominate themselves. It's usually a pretty open discussion, and anybody that's interested in being a member of the chair, you see what we do. There's no real hidden agenda. I've been doing it for several years. But I'm willing to keep doing it. But, I'm also open if somebody else wanted to, be presidential, they can. They want to feel empowered. So, yes, easy.
I'd like to nominate the current roster.
I second that.
Okay, well, then before we go any further, do the other members, are they all willing to retain their same roles? We have 2
Yes.
affirming head nods. So we have any other discussion or nominees? Okay, we have a motion by Jesus, a second by Venkat, to retain the same board members. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Actually, I'm not allowed to vote. So, I have to pass the gavel if I vote. Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate the confidence you've put in us. Again, I always say I'm not a professional at this. I do my best to try to keep things lighthearted, but also move it along. So I'm always open for anybody that has comments or items they'd like to just discuss either in or outside of the meeting. That's fine. Okay, and then real quick, just for the recording secretary, I don't know if it was recorded. You said there's the new member from Temple Terrace. We might want to mention that they're present. Did you want to introduce or?
Sure. Ron Patel, the new city engineer of City of Temple Terrace. Would you like to say a few words?
Happy to join and also put in my 2 cents in the back pocket that I have. Make it work.
Okay. Very good. I spent most of my youth in Temple Terrace, so I've always got a soft spot for the opinions that are coming out of there. Thank you. Yes.
And then we also have Adam Purcell from the city of Tampa joining us officially for his first meeting tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adam. Where you were here when they recorded attendance, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for being a couple minutes late. All right, I think that item has been fully vetted. So next up would be the, you already covered on that post.
Yeah.
Or stuff.
2 minutes.
Okay, didn't make a comment about the minutes or majority. Okay. All right, next up is the 2026 Safety Performance Cartels.
Good afternoon, TAC. Thanks to you all, and some new faces as well. I'm honored to host McDonald's CPO staff here to present on the 2026 safety performance targets, as well as the Public Transportation Agency safety. So a little bit of a background, if you're not familiar, the TPO is required to set performance measures by the US DOT. And federal highway reviews the progress of highway safety targets through our transportation program and the long range. So there are several categories of these targets or of the measures. Today, we're updating safety, which is the first performance measure, as well as the TAC. There are several others, including bridge and pavement condition, system performance, and transit asset management, which you may remember from previous presentations. The safety performance targets, we have 7 targets. 2 of them are elected, meaning that the TPO sets those separately from the requirements. And those 2 are fatalities and motorcycle fatalities on a 5-year rolling average. Fatalities overall are down, and we did meet the target that we set in 2025 for the 5-year average and the rate of fatalities. On the 5-year average, we did not meet the targets, we were just above. But those are rolling averages, so we had a higher number in 2021. And then rolling to the new 5 years and applying a 1% reduction factor, which is our practice for previous years. We have those targets on the right. So from 207 to no more than 105 on the 5-year rolling average. And for the rate, no more than 1.16. Motorcycles are down as well, no more than 37. Fatality is no more than 100. For serious injuries, we are down for those as well. On the 5-year rolling average, also applying a 1% reduction factor to all of those, the serious injuries, the rate serious injuries, and non-motorized fatalities and injuries. Non-motorized fatalities and injuries includes pedestrians and bicyclists. If an officer does program an e-bike as a bike, then it would come up in our system as a bicyclist. Those are differentiated in the data. The board requested in previous years to see fatalities per 1 million people. So we used the Board Office of Economic and Demographic Research to get a population estimate per year. So the rate we are seeing is going down, but I would suggest to look at the VMT as well, just because those will tell you how often people are driving and those rates to the frequency of driving as compared to just. So what is FDOT doing? What are we doing and what can we continue to do? FDOT and their strategic highway safety plan has several emphasis areas. So I'll go over those. The emphasis areas are data-driven priorities. So you got safety strategies, investments, and collaborative actions across the state. The areas are organized as roadways, road users, user behavior, and traffic records and information systems. The roadways focuses on infrastructure-related factors, road users focuses on demographic or specific factors, and user behavior focuses on behavioral risk factors. And overall, the takeaway here is that DOT is taking an all hands on deck, multifaceted approach to this. And what are we doing that we can continue to do? We have several system and corridor planning studies, including Manhattan and Boulevard. We're coming up in a year's Avenue multimodal study. We also have a safety treatment effectiveness evaluation, which is a study that actually came from the performance measures presentation. We conduct several events and coordinate with peer agencies. We also have great support from the Transportation Alternatives, Safe Streets for All, and we fund the program funds annually for safety projects in the. So to transition to the Public Transportation Agency safety plan targets, which is right now. There are 4 measures, including fatalities and fatality rate by mode, injury and injury rate, safety events and safety events by mode, safety events rate, and system reliability. So fatality and fatality rate, we are seeing 0 on all the modes, buses, the demand response and streetcars. So the target recommended is 0 as well, and as well as the rates. For injury rate, there are worsening injuries, and this includes injuries include everything aboard a vehicle, or within a facility or station. These also include like acts of God as well, so it may not, it could be, for example, a heart attack. These may not be just responsible of heart as well, so. But the idea here is to take a rate of these numbers, apply them to a higher number of miles.
Online, someone has their mic.
Safety events and safety event rates. These are things like collisions, fires or smoke, derailments or evacuations. We're recommending the targets in red and the targets on the safety events also in red. For system reliability, these are measured by the mean distance between major mechanical failures. There's a 10% factor here that ART has suggested for targets and included in their PTAS. And with that, the recommended action today is to recommend the TCO board approve the 2026 Safety and Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan targets. I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Connor. Do we have questions on the presentation?
I do.
Yes, Christian.
Can you move back to the slide on the transit safety?
Safety events or
Yeah, am I seeing correctly that both on this and the next slide, the bus rate actually goes up a hair?
yes, that's correct. I believe, so ART's method for that is to take the rate and apply that to the new mileage buses they predict in the future.
Yeah, so it is injuries per mile,
Okay.
basically, and then if we, next year we have more miles, more service miles projected, the conservative assumption is we apply that ratio to injuries, so more miles will be more injuries as a target.
Okay, but I mean, it's still a rate, right? It's not an event count.
You mean the last call?
Well, I mean, I see the event count goes up by 1, but the rate is also going up. So that tells me something's not getting better, no matter how you get it. And that the next slide, I think was the same.
I agree with Chris, because the miles can go up, the number of injuries can go up, but eventually your target has to be lower for rate target.
The 2 slides that showed the event count and rate, both the bus rates went up by, I think, go back 1 slide too. Yeah, so that 37 goes to 38 and that 26 went to 27.
I mean,
These are some small numbers of events, and that might be, it's just hard to make the math work, but I just wanted to be sure I understood.
so to clarify, the targets are required to be data-driven and realistic.
Mhm.
So it's not actually a requirement that they be lower, it's more of a requirement that they be feasible, I would
Right.
say. So if that helps understand, why they're slightly higher, and it does take rates from like previous years as
Right.
well.
What's the increase in mileage? What's the scale of that?
It's probably like, I mean, I don't remember exactly, but it's low. It's not that big.
Okay.
It's like 1-2% or something like that.
I understand the challenge of, so we're basically keeping pace with the increased mileage, keeping pace on the rate.
We're using the insurance logic.
Okay.
The more you mile, the more you drive, the more
Okay.
likely you are to get in an accident, right?
But if that is the case, but the demand response, or you're not expecting an increase in the demand response?
So demand response is interesting because, so that's what we operate. So the in-house service, we have a non-in-house service that we use as well. And we have been uploading some of our service to them. So our mileage has come down.
And if it helps to understand, the PTAP targets, typically the POs will adopt, the agencies, transit agencies targets if they're the sole agency, as it is the case in our scenario. If there's multiple transit agencies, then other factors may be considered for that MPO. But typically for MPOs, one agency, the practice is to adopt their target straight from them.
Did that sufficiently answer your question?
I understand what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little, the math seems a little funny, but the logic makes sense. But, you know, obviously we're trying to set goals and targets to continually reduce things, so it's a little uncomfortable in a way. And these are always, every year we get these, and it's always an uncomfortable topic when you talk about injuries, deaths, and it's almost like an accepted practice, and we all know that absolutely we don't feel that way. We're all looking for zero. But reality is, you know, you're required to set these numbers, and it's been many years in development, and they tweak it and so forth. So, you know, so I understand the question is very relevant. Any other questions or comments? Can you scroll back like earlier when you just talked about some of the results from 24 to 25? Wasn't sure if I. 70, obviously, internet. Localities, targeting.
And the guiding practice on this, you said, was to go down 1%.
Yes, so, we use the, most recent numbers to predict out the next year, so 2026.
Mm-hmm.
And then apply a 1% reduction to that. So, and simply the 2025 actual fatalities is 148, we apply that reduction to get to 147. And the reasons for the kind of the bigger drops in fatalities on the 5-year rolling average is that 5-year average moving forward. So in 2021, there were 255 fatalities, and so moving out of that number, there's a lower 5-year average, and then applying that 1% reduction factor.
That's one thing I was curious about. I always look more at the 5-year because 1 year can be a bit of an anomaly, but I know we had the COVID related,
Yeah.
you know, impacts. So I think as we pull away from that, we're going to get a more, of course, it's a changed world. There's different driving patterns are different than they were pre-COVID. There's, I think, you know, differences in people working in offices and working from home. And as we've noticed, rush hour isn't exactly always what it used to be, more defined. Now it's, but anyway, so
So
we're running up a little.
if the previous year went down, but the 5-year average went up, I guess that means though that the year that fell off was still better than the year we added on.
No. 2021 is the highest number that drops off.
Right.
That's why the rolling average came to 180.
Oh, but that's next year. But I'm looking at this past
Okay.
2025. But the trend though, I'm trying to understand is the 2025 number of the 5-year average was with the red arrow pointed up. So the 5-year average was up last year,
So that's compared to
the previous year.
I think 20 was high.
that red arrow is compared to the target that we set. So we set the
Okay.
target at 2204,
Okay.
and it's above this target.
Oh, I got you. Okay. That's not the trend. That's the
Average.
performance against the target.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, can you go to the next slide? All right, okay, thank you. I think that was the last one. The next slide, it was the
It's the
other graph. Always like to see the downward trend, so. You know, and I know you use this data to look for anomalies and so forth and identify. I guess my last question, is there any I mean, most of the rates have come down. Is there anything you're attributing to last year being a better year, or is it just general? Is there any one project that jumps out that maybe like downtown interstate completion has reduced a lot of, anything like that?
It's difficult to say, which projects have really, contributed to a lower factor. However, we are bringing that safety treatment effectiveness evaluation, at least the name. I believe to this committee in March. I could be wrong about that, but that's a study that we've conducted at a request from the safety performance measures, just to see what's happening, why these numbers are going down, and what we continue to do in terms of infrastructure. So we will be seeing that presentations.
Okay, very good. All right, then you go to the last slide for the motion.
So one slide up.
Oh.
Real quick, sorry.
No problem.
I do that. Okay. I was just looking at the presentation that I had, and the numbers were a little different. in
Yes,
the
that's
targets.
correct. They're
They-
different in this present.
Okay, they tweet.
And these are accurate.
Okay. Okay, that was all.
This is a positive measure, so we want to target these numbers to go up as opposed to the.
Yeah.
To the trend.
Okay. It's just what I have, so that's why I was asking, just wanted to be sure. Okay,
Thank you.
great, no problem, thanks.
That was quite an effort.
Thank you, federal government.
Okay, so with that, I'm seeking a motion as indicated on the screen. Good motion. All right, Patrick, we have a motion as proposed on the presentation. Last slide, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Sarah. Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you very much. I think that is passed. Okay. So next up, folks, is the traffic signal prioritization study with Wade, who I believe is online today.
Yes, good afternoon, and I'm very sorry for not being there in person, but good to be before you all once again, TAC. This is the traffic signal prioritization study that we have undertaken. There are three major reasons that we went forward with this study. First, it was ranked the highest priority in the public survey for the long-range transportation plan. So looking again at our methodology for prioritizing signalization projects in our LOP is an outcome of that. And then in talking to the city of Tampa in particular, they have some signals that have structural issues. That would be the wood pole, concrete pole supports, or wire span holding up those signal heads really can't support any more weight, even though the real estate at some intersections, there's an existing turn lane, but not an existing turn signal head, for example. So looking at that with some around the county with some minimal interventions, we might be able to make some larger improvements. And finally, the other reason, which I experienced firsthand just over a year ago, was after Hurricane Milton, and we had several days without power. Some signals have uninterrupted power supply, which is abbreviated as UPS in this presentation. And those were great because at least you get a blinking yellow at the least. Unfortunately, many did not have that, and you would just approach these pitch black intersections and people would just be blowing through them, maybe not even seeing the signal head. So that is one of the criteria that you will see in this. So moving forward, sorry. There we go. So the purpose is to assess the baseline condition of traffic signals across the county and prepare a methodology to assist in the prioritization of those signals not in a state of good repair. And the outcome is establishing a performance-based methodology that we can use to evaluate our LOP submissions to repair or replace or upgrade existing traffic signal elements. So the benefits to this project, as I mentioned, response during emergencies, adjusting signal timings to accommodate planned and unplanned events. A planned event might be a football game, for example. Unplanned event might be a hurricane. Supporting traffic studies related to Vision Zero, and that could be helping to reduce the speed through signal timing, for example. and serving our partner agencies as a resource for coordinating signal improvements for maintaining or enhancing operations, particularly as you cross jurisdictional lines. So the first task was an inventory of all the traffic signals. I'll get to this more in a moment, but it turns out that there is not consistent data between jurisdictions. So that is an ongoing task, the inventory. But the prioritization methodology is largely complete, and as we get submissions, we will be able to rank the intersections. And as we build out the database, we'll be able to rank everything overall. So the combined data sets, it's just over 1,200 signals total, almost 600 in each in Hillsborough County, Tampa, and 56 in Plant City. Signals in Temple Terrace are maintained by Hillsborough County. And the focus on resiliency, so structural, we look at the type, condition, and age of the supports for the signal. The cabinet, the age, the mounting type, and the height, which helps us if we're in a floodplain. The location, as I said, within a floodplain, on an evacuation route, or within hurricane wind zones. And the technology, both flood sensors and the uninterrupted power supply. And so focusing on the most vulnerable locations, we've assigned priority rank to signal elements, assigned a score to each element, and compare the overall resiliency score. So strain wood, for example, would get the most points because it is the least resilient. Concrete would get 2 points, and a mast arm would get 1 point. The greater than 10 years would get a 2 for age, a greater score. Condition, poor condition would get a greater score. And the span wire condition, if it's in poor condition, would get a greater score. Also, within the floodplain, having a documented flood history or on an evacuation route would increase the score. So these are just a couple of examples that we did to see how they would rank out. Excuse me. So in this case, Kennedy Boulevard and US 92 and I believe 579 is Mango Road would rank the highest out of these. So as I mentioned, some of the challenges were data availability and what people collect. So one piece of good news is that our data collection effort has been a lot cheaper than we anticipated. So we've been able to do a Google Street View survey to help build out some of this, and we will do we will be doing an additional task to build out this database after we complete this project. But Hillsborough County, for example, is collecting a good amount of this on all of their cabinets. So it'll just be, or excuse me, on all of their intersections. So it will just be integrating it into the larger database. So we did do, the consultants did do some field visits, getting baseline conditions on some corridors. Those were Manhattan, US 41, and Hillsborough Avenue, Tampa Road. So upon implementation, this methodology will allow for agencies to submit for SU funding for traffic signal. That's Service Transportation Block Grant for traffic signal infrastructure. We'll have a standardized data collection and standardized data on each intersection. And proactive repair replacement rather than reactive is a goal. So the next steps, we will be coming back to you next month for to request your blessing and recommendation for approval to the TPO board. And we will hopefully be able to use this in the prioritization of any projects submitted for our lot this year. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We did have some great recommendations from the Citizens Advisory Committee. One was awarding points based on unsafe areas. We suggested adding if the intersection is on a segment that is on the Vision Zero high injury network. We have a top 50 roadway segments for that. And they also suggested awarding points if there is not accessible infrastructure for pedestrian signal buttons. We are talking to the consultant about what sort of effort that would take to include in our data collection. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Okay, all right, thank you, Wade. Do we have questions for Mr. Reynolds? Yes, sir. Adam.
Hey, Wade, it's Adam Purcell, City of Tampa. How you doing?
Doing well, Adam. Thank you.
Hey, question. I think we're on a parallel line of thought here because in our UPWP request, we had an inventory of signal condition. And starting to look at that, you said you guys are going to go out and complete an assessment of condition through a consultant. Do you have a timeline for the completion of that portion of the study?
Yes, we're actually hoping to kick that off sort of as soon as this project is complete and just keep working to build it out. The timing to complete it, we are basing that on the number of intersections we can complete in this effort and then extrapolating from there about the timing. But I would suggest probably by the end of 2026, we'll have a built out database.
Okay. And then you're the condition assessment of good, fair, poor. Can you talk to us at all about what elements of the signal contribute to those classifications?
Sure. Let me just go back to that because the structure, so that would be the overall condition, good, fair, or poor. And within each one of these categories. So if it's strain wood, you could look at you will do some assessment of the condition of that wood pole. And the same with the span wire. I assume visible rust would be something, obvious cracking and other things. I truly am not an expert in that part of it, Adam. But I will be happy to get back to you about specifically what goes into that condition assessment. Okay, yeah, that'd be good, because what we were looking at is like an in-person site visit for each intersection and like an engineer technician taking a look at that infrastructure. So I didn't know if you said you guys are doing this through Google Earth, Google Maps, some sort of online map service. I think the intention was to get the elements that we could off of that and do site visits for what we were unable to. Okay. No, all right. Appreciate that. Thanks.
So, where this is Venkat again now. Example on the type, you said mass stone 1, strain concrete 2, and strain wood 4. But this example, if it is a mass stone, that is going to get a score of how much? Is it 2? The mass storm is going to get a score of 1. Okay, 1 times total points. How are you calculating? I'm not sure I understand. If it is a 1, what is the total score? How are you calculating the total score? Oh, you would add the points in each category.
I think it's,
Usually saying that you multiply the score.
Multiply by the score factor.
yeah, I think it's a priority rank times the score.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's one of those.
Right, sounds like.
So in
So
that
if it was a
circumstance,
mass,
it
it
would
would
be
be 5 times weight, it would be 5 times what? Because it was in a.
One of those.
Okay, the no score better.
Oh,
Okay.
excuse me. I do understand what you're asking now. Thank you. Yes, it is the product of the priority rank times the value for each structural type. Mr. Chair, I do see Mr. Kogenauer has his hand raised online.
Okay.
Yeah, related question to the last two, really. Our traffic department is this year going to be starting a in the field hands-on condition assessment of all the structures and the cables. And I would like to be able to sync their evaluation up with yours so we can get whatever synergy we can out of it and certainly, not necessarily duplicate efforts, but try to make them, at least not disagree with each other.
Yes,
So we
sir.
would like to, would like to look at the factors that y'all are doing in some level of detail. There's a wide range of conditions that could contribute to the good, fair, and poor in particular.
I agree.
So if you've got
and,
if you've got a detailed scope worked out with a consultant already, we'd love to maybe review that and incorporate some of those components with our group.
that would be fantastic. I will reach out, Frank. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Wade.
Wait, a quick question on Patel City of Temple Terrace. Were mid-block pedestrian crossing signals part of this analysis?
We have not included the pedestrian signals in this yet. I would like to add them as a future effort, but that was not a part of this effort.
I just have one thought. If more BBUs or UPS can be added out there, you can emphasize additional safety, at least for the pedestrians via a traffic signal.
Thank you. That's excellent feedback.
Good. And I think the comments from the citizens group were relevant. I mean, a factor of how busy the roadway should be a consideration in, the assessment, at least to some degree, assuming in a fail state, they're probably going to be receiving most of the traffic. So, that seemed like one of the things they brought up, and that certainly would be something to consider. I agree.
Yes, sir. We were thinking volume to capacity ratio just as a normalizing way of thinking about volume going into those intersections.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, I think that's it, Wade. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time.
Okay, last item up is the open and school streets. Oh, I see. Over you.
Here, Lisa Sola, TPO staff. I'm your Business Area Coordinator. So it's been interesting to hear all the related topics today. A lot of new faces, so I'm trying to figure out who all's. Anyway, you're going to get to hear about some efforts that some of your jurisdictions have done in the past as I go through my presentation today. On Connor's performance measures, I do attend and sit on some safety coalitions, so some interesting factors in safety and the targets and stuff. It's like the vehicles are getting much safer, but so the serious injuries and stuff are going down, but the fatalities for those that are not in those safe vehicles are going up. So there's that one factor. And then fortunately or unfortunately, or many jurisdictions and agencies and private industry are going back to 5 days of the week in person. So congestion is safety sprint. So I throw that in there as I introduce this topic. Okay, so here we go. Facing it. Perfect. I'm doing 2 days away. Okay. So in November, the Livable Roadways Committee inquired about the open streets concepts. And so they asked for a detailed presentation so they could dig into it a little more. And then because of your interest in topics over the years, Elizabeth said, hey, could you bring it to our January meeting? We have time and I think it would be fun and relevant. So that's why I'm bringing it to you. Because school streets are a form of open streets. I threw those in there too, because I also am the school transportation coordinator. Anytime I can do anything to promote those, keeping those students safe, I do. And then super blocks are a very relatable and relevant term. So I threw those in too. So, took a topic and went on steroids. Okay. So what are open streets? They were originated in Bogota, Colombia. They've had a ton of success. They refer to it as a ciclovia or a cycleway. So closing either temporarily or permanently roadway infrastructure. So, and opening it up to the non-motorized. So bicycles and pedestrians and then activities, etc. So, better yet, why not have one of the experts and one of the originators, tell you a little bit more about their success via video. Sounds a little quiet, even though we tested this. See about turning it up a little bit. Later. Okay, I'm not gonna make you go through the whole thing, but you get a little sense of it there. And also Pearson, it's not verbal online, so I think I forgot to turn that on. We rehearsed many, many times. Okay, I swear. Okay, see. suggestion, maybe safety's friend. Technology is not Lisa's friend. Okay. All right. Been there. Okay, so as you saw in the video, overwhelming success in Columbia. They have like 75 miles of roadway every Sunday now, and millions of people enjoying it. So, school streets, not that radically different. They're the same type of concept, but at school arrival and dismissal, or even a permanent access around schools. So there are some schools like in city of Tampa where when we went out to the school study, we're like, wow, if we could just like maybe even close all of these small streets right adjacent to the school, make them just be for children and parents getting to and from school, and maybe even just allow the buses to use that as queuing and stuff. Maybe that would be a really good tool in the toolbox. You know, we can't engineer and pay our ways out of all of our safety concerns. So these are some kind of creative tools in the toolbox that are low cost and quick build. They also promote healthier lifestyles. They provide really great access for maybe even recess and PE types of things to reduce the crashes and emissions. So that's a great safe thing to have in and around your schools. New York Department of Transportation even has a whole program for open streets for schools. And they have some great toolkits and example letters to send to the adjacent community so that they understand what you're doing, why you're closing the street. And I don't risk you.
You may have been hearing a lot about school streets and find yourself asking, what is a school street? Well, basically, a school street restricts car traffic in front of a school to make it safer for children, with the first example showing up in Bolzano, Italy in 1989. The explosion of school streets can be attributed to a few factors: reducing traffic conflicts between children and cars at schools, promoting physical activity and play for children and families, and helping to address climate change and air quality. Every school street project is a little bit different. Some use temporary barriers installed by volunteers, while others use traffic calming changes to the street. Some cities are using tactical urbanism to make temporary change, with many pilots becoming permanent. School streets make getting to and from school a fun, active, and healthy part of childhood, and no matter what they look like, the positive impact is clear. Do you have a school street project that inspires you? Tell us about it below.
And super blocks are where you close and you keep the vehicular traffic on the outside. So examples are like 3 blocks by 3 blocks. And then that area is then opened up for green space and interaction on the non-motorized traffic. So maybe you think about some blocks in downtown. I mean, we've explored closing Franklin Street and opening it up. And then we have Hope Plaza, which is basically the closed Franklin Street of yesteryear. Maybe there are some little tools in some special areas in your jurisdictions that you might want to consider it. So this isn't the first time this has been introduced. I've long enough to have seen the different efforts over time. So the first one that I'm aware of locally was in Clearwater in 2009. So that community had been inspired by Bogota's model and Clearwater's economic development department, because this does bring a lot of good economy and business support, and it supports local and small businesses, particularly food trucks and then the yoga teachers, etc. So they closed 2 miles of Cleveland Street back then and held that event. And that was successful. And then Tampa took it on 5 years later in December of 2014. In fact, that's one of my first public engagement events with Ray Reynolds. We were at the TPO table out there on Kennedy when it was closed to everybody, giving out slap bands. And then they repeated the effort in 2015, but that's the last that we've done in Tampa that I'm aware of. Well, except one more I'll tell you about in a minute. And even the concept was new. So Livable Roadways Committee had presenters that were involved in those efforts come and present and promote and tell us about it, invite us to it. And then also do an evaluation tool to try to help support additional initiatives. I discovered in my research, Temple Terrace even joined the efforts a year later. So they try to promote the green spine and those connections and those efforts, because they were kind of baby projects way back then. And then more recently, you might remember that Bike Stock, where they closed Bayshore. So that was the year of COVID. And we couldn't have the big bike rides that On Bike has for Winter Wonderland or what Wonder Ride or whatever they call it. So they that and the kickoff of Vision Zero Tampa was very hot right then. So that was a joint effort. I remember being introduced to the closing of Bayshore by architect Mickey Jacob. He championed that closing and he thought we could have like a world largest awesome linear park to go with our longest continuous sidewalk in the world, Bayshore, and as we know from some recent efforts to write ordinances to ban bikes on Bayshore and Riverwalk, that like we have a very big success and problem because mixing all that traffic on very short sidewalks or narrow sidewalks. So maybe some closing of the streets either permanently or temporarily would help for that, demand that we have and keeping all the users separate, especially now that we've motorized many of them, so they're going faster. So it's just some interesting topics and dialogue to kind of inspire you with some of the other types of safety tools that we have in the toolbox and that other communities have done, that we've done locally, but not on a permanent basis. So just I'm available for any ideas or discussion as my multimedia presentation.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Do you have any questions or comments?
There were one thought, city of Dallas, they have traffic circulation, just as you explained out here. They do one way during the school hours. These are two-way streets out there.
Oh,
Go in one direction to reduce it.
Okay.
Right.
I'll try to hear. That's a good one.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, we'll look for some of these in the future. Maybe we'll get your name on them. We'll call them up.
Yeah, it's not really a thing a long-range transportation agency does, but it is something that our local jurisdictions and partner agencies could take on or advocacy groups and stuff, so.
Right.
Inspire and encourage you.
Yes, yeah, just one thing. I know New Orleans does it with some of the Mardi Gras parades. So obviously, their DOT, City Public Works, Police Department, everybody shuts down streets. What they'll do now with some of them is the day before the parade, they're allowing bikes out on those streets because the street is shut down. So they've basically got impromptu bike parades that will happen right before you end up having one of the large Mardi Gras organizations roll through New Orleans. So it's kind of an interesting thing that they've started to do over there. And certainly we're Tampa, we like a good parade here too. So it's something that we could possibly look into here.
Well, yeah, the locals all know that when Gasparilla, the roads are closed in advance of the Gasparilla parade, it is just prime bicycle riding. But that's the thing, like people wish it were not just that 1 or 2 days a year. They could push for more regular and permanent schedule or even forever. If we look at the transportation, do we really need all of those on our waterfront? And we can take advantage of the expressway. It's already encourage that.
Yeah.
Take the corner, take the big toll away. Maybe more people get out there, circle there, get close away.
It's kind of unrelated, but I thought I heard there was a marathon on the Selman this past weekend. Like they were running the upper deck.
Yeah, the Brendan half marathon or whatever.
Yeah, I think they ran the upper deck, which I thought was interesting kind of symbiosis of, pedestrian and roadways. And, it's interesting. If you're a runner, it can be boring. I mean, running up there would be something different and view and stuff. I thought that was an interesting way to kind of integrate.
They closed the runways at PIA for 5 days too. Yeah. We will close the roadway for parades and bike days regularly. Maybe this could be added to the mix for enjoyment of the roadway, not just an event.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lisa. I think that concludes the scheduled activities. Is there any old or new business? I do have a brief topic just to bring up, and I don't know, maybe Venkat or even Mike, you could say that as I've gone through these, we talk a lot about signal timing, and I'm a creature of kind of watching and seeing how things work. So I was wondering, not to be addressed today, but is that a topic that we could ask the, either the city or the county to just come back and explain in a very short presentation what features you look at how you go about setting the timing, how is it affected by emergency services? And again, this is more me just being, an observer and seeing how things change on the weekends and then other days they're not. And I just feel like it might be an asset in some of the stuff we comment on and look at that, maybe a little more knowledge about that. I keep looking at you. I don't know if you're the right person to do it, but could you address that? But I don't want to make this sound like some big project. It would, probably a 2-slide thing that you could just say, well, this is what we would do. It's not like you got to needle it down, but I don't know. So I guess it's just, I'm bringing it out and see if anybody else would have an interest in that, or is that something we could just have some private conversation about? I don't know. Something that you feel like would be a benefit for the group to ask for a full presentation. Okay.
That sounds good.
Not in it, that's Is there a general nodding of head? Yes, please, if you have a comment.
Some communities have enjoyed a tour of the signal.
TMC.
Yeah.
Yeah, the command center. You learn how and why they time them the way they do and how they, platoon them for speeds.
Right. I know I went to one many years ago. We had one.
That's just a few blocks away. If you could use that.
Well, I don't think I went to that. I went to the one at DOT off of McKinley. Whatever that control center was, and they didn't detail the timing so much. They talked about all the coverage they had from the cameras, which was very interesting too. But,
So just talking out loud, if it's of interest to the group, maybe Ben can get with you offline. I don't know if you could connect with me and somebody at the city of Tampa and a list of somebody from DOT. Maybe there's not to be a thing, like maybe just like a roundtable discussion about it. Would that be valuable to the TAC?
I mean, that's fine. We can, or just make it an agenda item and just say, hey, how this is. I'm thinking this is just a few minute explanation. Just to,
There's whole courses taken online, how they do that. How they,
If you just need
what kind of
something
things they
in
look at.
101,
with the
I
basic,
can do a 10-minute presentation.
yeah,
yeah, that's all I'm talking about. Is like
That's good.
what is it, 30,000 notes or plus view or whatever. Just the basic things you look at, and I don't know. For me, I think interesting. So we can look at maybe reaching out and see if somebody can do that. Nothing urgent, certain. So again, this is the time to bring up if there's anybody else that has an interest in topics. I know they're always looking for topics that are not regular ones, something different. All right, anybody else? All right, I think with that, we will close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and then on the states.
Yeah.
And actually,